Hi, I'm Mark Smallis, Civil Discourse Now for July 31st, 2022. About 100 years ago, Indiana was under a tyranny, and I see reflections of it today. Today, there are church groups that have small groups learning how to use firearms, training, using war terms, talking about being warriors for the Lord. About 100 years ago, there were groups that were similarly organized in the state of Indiana, and they really ruled as a tyranny in the state. That was the Ku Klux Klan. Ku Klux Klan was brought down because of the murder of Madge Oberholzer. She was a clerical worker in the office of the superintendent of public instruction. And the individual who was responsible for her death was D.C. Stephenson. He'd been Grand Dragon or Imperial Wizard or Grand something of the Ku Klux Klan. And one of those lofty titles, he was thrown out of the Klan, had the Klan here. You get the picture. And here's a full text of her dying declaration. And if you don't want to hear some things that are rather even today, rather stark, please don't. I, Madge Oberholzer, being in full possession of my mental faculties and conscious that I'm about to die, make as my dying declaration the following statements. My name is Madge Oberholzer. I'm a resident of Marion County, state of Indiana, residing at number 5802 University Avenue, Indianapolis. I first met D.C. Stephenson at the banquet given to the governor at the athletic club early in January 1925. After the banquet, he asked me for a date several times, but I gave him no definite answer. He later insisted that I take dinner with him at the Washington Hotel, and I consented, and he came for me at my home in his Cadillac car, and on this occasion, we dined together. After that, he called me several times on the phone, and once again, I had dinner with him at the Washington Hotel with another party. Subsequent to this, I was once at Stephenson's home at a party with several prominent people when both gentlemen and their ladies were present. I did not see him again until Sunday, March 15, 1925, when upon returning to my home about 10 o'clock in the evening, I was informed by my mother, who said to me that there had been parties calling for me on the telephone and saying for me to call Irvington 0492. I called Irvington 0492, it's the old exchanges that they had, and Stephenson answered and said to me to come down if I could to his home, that he wished to see me about something very important to me, that he was leaving for Chicago and had to see me before he left. This was about 10 p.m. Sunday. His home was only 2 or 3 blocks from mine. He said further that he was busy and could not leave, but he would send someone for me. I recognized Stephenson's voice. Soon, a Mr. Gentry, whom I had never seen before, came for me and said he was from Stephenson's. I walked with Gentry to Stephenson's home. When we went inside, I saw Stephenson and he had been drinking. His chauffeur, whom he called Shorty, was there also. Shorty is a young man. Later, a man whom they called Clink came in. As soon as I got inside the house, I was very much afraid, as I first learned that there was no other woman about, and that Stephenson's housekeeper was away, or at least not in evidence. Immediately upon my arrival, they took me into the kitchen, and some kind of drinks were produced. It was then Clink came in the back door. I said I wanted no drink, but Stephenson and the others forced me to drink. I was afraid not to do so, and I drank 3 small glasses of the drink. This made me very ill and dazed, and I vomited. Stephenson said to me about this time, I want you to go with me to Chicago. I remember saying I could not and would not. I was very much terrified and did not know what to do. I said to him that I wanted to go home. He said, no, you cannot go home. Oh, yes, you are going with me to Chicago. I love you more than any woman I have ever known. Stephenson was a bigamist. I tried to call my home on the phone, but could get no answer. Later, when I tried to get to a phone, they would not let me. These men were all about me. They took me up to Stephenson's room, and he opened a dresser drawer which was filled with revolvers. He told each of the men to take one, and he selected a pearl-handled revolver for himself and had Shorty load it. Stephenson said first to me that we were going to drive through to Chicago. He said for me to go with him, but I said I did not wish to and would not go to Chicago. Later, Gentry called the Washington Hotel at Stephenson's order and secured reservation in a drawing room for 2 persons. They all took me to the automobile at the rear of Stephenson's yard, and we started the trip. I thought we were bound for Chicago, but did not know. I begged of them to drive past my home so I could get my hat, and once inside my home, I thought I would be safe from them. They drove me to Union Station in the machine where they had to get a ticket. I did not get out of the automobile all the way. Before we left the house, I remember Stephenson said to Clink, "You get in touch with Claude Worley right away and tell him we are going to Chicago on a business deal to make money for all of us." Clink did not go with us in the car. Stephenson and Gentry sat in the car all the time with me until we got onto the train. We stopped at the Washington Hotel on the way. Shorty got out and went in the hotel and came back. They would not let me out. I was dazed and terrified that my life would be taken and did not know what to do. Stephenson would not let me get out of the car, and I was afraid he would kill me. He said he was the law in Indiana. He also said to Gentry, "I think I'm pretty smart to have gotten her." We got on the train, and although I cannot distinctly remember, I think only the colored porters saw us. Sorry about such use of language, but it was the 1920s. They took me at once into the compartment. I cannot distinctly remember. I know Gentry got into the top berth of the compartment. Stephenson took hold of the bottom of my dress and pulled it up over my head. I tried to fight, but was weak and unsteady. Stephenson took hold of my 2 hands and held them. I had not the strength to move. What I had drunk was affecting me. Stephenson took all my clothes off and pushed me into the lower berth. After the train had started, Stephenson got in with me and attacked me. He held me so I could not move. I did not know and do not remember all that happened. He chewed me all over my body, bit my neck and face, chewing my tongue, chewed my breasts until they bled, my back, my legs, my ankles, and mutilated me all over my body. I remember I heard a buzz early in the morning and the porter calling us to get up for Hammond. And Gentry took me and said it was time to get up, that we were to get off at Hammond. And realized by doing that, they weren't crossing a state line. So that would have been a federal offense. At this time, I was becoming more conscious, and Stephenson was flourishing his revolver. I said to him to shoot me. He held the revolver against my side, but I did not flinch. I said to him again to kill me, but he put the gun in his grip. Hand, that's like suitcase. I had heard no sound from Gentry during the night. Afterwards, Gentry and Stephenson helped me dress, and the 2 men dressed, and they took me off the train at Hammond. I remember seeing the conductor. I was able to walk to the Indiana Hotel. I remember begging Stephenson and saying to him to wire my mother during the night, and he said he had or would. I'm not clear about that. At the Indiana Hotel, Stephenson registered for himself and wife. I tried to see under what name, but failed to do so. This is about 6:30 in the morning. There were in the hotel lobby 2 colored bellboys and 2 colored girls. Gentry, Stephenson, and myself went to the rooms. I had no money. I kept begging Stephenson and saying to him to send my mother a telegram. He said to the bellboy, "Are there any telegraph blanks in the room?" Stephenson made me write the telegram and said to me what to say. Gentry took the telegram and said he would send it right away. Stephenson lay down on the bed and slept. Gentry put hot towels and witch hazel on my head and bathed my body to relieve my suffering. We were in room 416 with Stephenson while Gentry was doing this. Stephenson said he was sorry and that he was 3 degrees less than a brute. I said to him, "You are worse than that." Breakfast was served in the room. Shorty came in about this time. He said he had driven up in Stephenson's car. Stephenson ate grapefruit, coffee, sausage, and buttered toast for breakfast. I drank some coffee but ate nothing. I said to Stephenson to give me some money, and I had to buy a hat. Shorty gave me $15 at Stephenson's direction, took me out in the car. Shorty said to Stephenson he had been delayed getting there as he could not find the hotel where we were in Hammond. Shorty waited for me while I went into a store close to the hotel to get a hat. It was a small black silk hat similar to one I have. It cost $12.50. When I came back to the car, I said to Shorty to drive me to a drugstore in order I might get some rouge. We drove to a drugstore near the Indiana Hotel, and I purchased a box of bichloride mercury tablets. Toxic. I put these in my coat pocket. Then we went back to the hotel. During the morning when we were in the hotel, the men got more liquor at Stephenson's direction. Stephenson said we were going to drive on to Chicago. Stephenson made me write the telegram to my mother saying we were going up to Chicago. Gentry took it. When I got back to the hotel with Shorty, I went up to the room. Gentry had a room next to Stephenson. His was number 417. I said to Stephenson to let me go into 417 to lie down and rest. He said, "Oh, you're not going there. You're going to lie down right here by me." I waited a while until I thought he was asleep. Then I went to room 417. Gentry stayed in the room with Stephenson. There was no glass in room 417, so I got a glass in 416 and took the mercury tablets. I laid out 18 of the bichloride of mercury tablets and at once took 6 of them. I only took 6 because they burnt me so. This is about 10 a.m. Monday, I think. Earlier in the morning, I had taken Stephenson's revolver, and while Gentry was out sending the telegram, I wanted to kill myself then in Stephenson's presence. This was while he was first asleep. Then I decided to try and get poison and take it in order to save my mother from disgrace. I knew it would take longer with the mercury tablets to kill me. Later, after I had taken the mercury tablets, I lay down on the bed and became very ill. I think it was nearly 4 o'clock in the afternoon before anyone came into the room where I was. Then Shorty came in. He sat down to talk to me. Now, that's the first part of her deathbed statement. She explains how they brought her back to Indianapolis, dumped her off at her parents' home, and tried to disavow any knowledge of her having been anywhere or that them having been anywhere with her. Stephenson was charged with homicide after she died. He was convicted of second-degree murder. The Klan lost power in the state of Indiana during the proceedings, and afterwards, Stephenson said, "I am the law in Indiana." My question is this. If Trump did that today, kidnapped a woman, raped her, bit her all over her body, would anybody be indignant over that? I know I would. A lot of people would be. But what about the big Trump supporters? He bragged about being able to shoot somebody out on Fifth Avenue, and he'd be able to get away with it. This country is a country of laws. We have to be aware there are people who would take power and break those laws. I'm Mark Swan, Simplest Course Now. Peace, love, happiness, freedom, nano. May the force be with you always.